Just visualize that you're standing on the edge of a cliff, the wind howling, your heart pounding like a drum. And suddenly a voice inside your head says, "You're going to fall." In that split second, your body floods with adrenaline, your breath becomes shallow, and your mind races with every worst-case scenario. You haven't even moved a muscle, but your nervous system has already launched a full-blown stress response. What if I told you that this reaction, which feels like an unstoppable force, is actually a habit your brain has learned, and that you can unlearn it in just a few minutes a day? Stay with me for the next 10 minutes, because I'm going to show you exactly how to rewire that stress response, using the latest neuroscience and proven psychological techniques. By the end of this video, you will have a step-by-step routine you can start using right now, and you'll understand why each part works. So if you're ready to take control of the alarm system inside your head, hit the play button and let's get started. Let's begin with the basics. When you perceive a threat, whether it's a looming deadline, an angry email, or a near miss on the road, a tiny almond-shaped structure deep in your brain called the amygdala springs into action. The amygdala is the brain's threat detector. It scans everything that happens around you, and when it thinks you're in danger, it sends an urgent signal to the hypothalamus, which then activates the pituitary gland. The pituitary releases a hormone called ACTH, which tells the adrenal glands to dump cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. Those chemicals give you that burst of energy, the faster heartbeat, the sharpened focus. In evolutionary terms, this fight-or-flight response was a lifesaver. It got our ancestors out of the way of a predator, or helped them chase down prey. The problem today is that the same alarm fires when you're stuck in a meeting, when you see a text from a friend that upsets you, or when you think about that big presentation next week. Your body doesn't know the difference between a real physical threat and a mental one, so it reacts the same way every time. But here's the good news. Your brain is not a static organ. It has a property called neuroplasticity, which simply means it can change. Every time you think a thought, feel an emotion, or perform an action, you are strengthening certain neural pathways and weakening others. Think of it like walking through a forest. The first time you take a path, it's barely a trail. The more often you walk that path, the clearer and more defined it becomes. The same thing happens in your brain. If you repeatedly react to stress with panic, you are carving a deep groove that makes that reaction easier and more automatic. But you can also create new grooves. By deliberately practicing new ways of responding, you can make those new pathways stronger, eventually turning them into the default route. As Dr. Richard Davidson, a neuroscientist at the University of Wisconsin, puts it, "The brain is the organ of adaptation. What we practice, we become." Now let me introduce you to 3 practical steps that will help you rewire that stress response. The first step is to label what you're feeling. This may sound simple, but it has a powerful effect on the brain. When you put a name to an emotion, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling stressed, you activate the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain involved in higher-order thinking and self-regulation. At the same time, labeling reduces the activity of the amygdala, the alarm center we talked about earlier. In a study published in the journal Psychological Science, participants who simply named their emotions showed lower levels of stress hormones compared to those who didn't ET. So the very act of saying, out loud or in your head, "This is stress, this is what my body feels like," starts to shift the brain's response from a raw alarm to a more measured observation. As Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, author of The Body Keeps the Score, explains, when you name the feeling, you give the brain a chance to calm down. You can practice this right now. Close your eyes for a moment, take a slow breath, and notice where you feel the stress in your body. Maybe it's a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, or a racing heartbeat. As you notice it, say silently, "I am feeling stress. I feel it in my chest." Even a brief pause and a simple label can begin to engage that prefrontal region and calm the alarm. Try it again, and notice how the intensity of the feeling changes even slightly. That's the first step in rewiring. The second step is to reframe the threat. Our brains are wired to interpret uncertainty as danger, which is why a looming deadline can feel like an imminent attack. Cognitive reappraisal is a technique that involves looking at a stressful situation from a different angle, one that reduces its emotional impact. Instead of thinking, I'm going to fail, you might think, I have the skills to handle this, and I can break it down into smaller steps. This shift doesn't deny the reality of the stressor. It simply changes the meaning you assign to it. Research shows that people who regularly practice reappraisal have lower cortisol responses and better emotional health over time. Dr. Susan David, a psychologist at Harvard, says, "The ability to reframe is the single most powerful tool we have for emotional resilience. To put this into practice, take a moment to think of a current stressor. Write down the automatic thought that comes to mind. It might be something like, everyone will think I'm incompetent if I mess up this presentation. Now, ask yourself, is this thought 100% true? What evidence do I have for and against it? Then try to generate an alternative, more balanced thought. Perhaps, I have prepared for this, and even if I make a small mistake, it doesn't define my abilities." Repeating this reframe when you feel stress can gradually weaken the old, fear-based pathway and strengthen a new, more resilient one. The third step is to reset your nervous system with breath and body posture. The breath is a powerful tool because it directly influences the autonomic nervous system, the part of your brain that controls involuntary functions like heart rate and digestion. When you breathe in a slow, controlled way, you activate the vagus nerve, which sends a signal to the brain that says, all is well, we can calm down. One of the most effective patterns is the physiological sigh, a deep inhale through the nose, followed by a short second inhale, and then a long, slow exhale through the mouth. This pattern has been shown to rapidly reduce heart rate and lower cortisol levels. Dr. Andrew Weil, a pioneer in integrative medicine, explains, the physiological sigh is nature's quick reset button for the nervous system. At the same time, your body posture can feed back into your brain. Standing tall with shoulders back and chest open sends signals of confidence and safety, which can reduce the amygdala's alarm response. So, when you feel stress rising, sit up straight, lift your chin, and take a few of those physiological sighs. You'll notice a physical shift, your shoulders drop, your breathing becomes smoother, and the mental fog begins to clear. Now, let us put the 3 steps together into a simple routine you can use anytime you feel stress. First, pause and label the feeling. Take a breath, notice where you feel it, and say, I am stressed. Second, reframe the thought. Ask yourself what the story is, and then find a more balanced alternative. Third, reset with a breathing exercise and an open posture. Do this for just a minute or two, and you'll start to notice a change in how your body reacts. With repeated practice, the brain begins to associate these new actions with the stress trigger, gradually weakening the old panic response and strengthening a calmer, more controlled pathway. As Dr. Joe Dispenza often says, the moment you change your perception, you change the chemistry of your body. It's important to remember that rewiring doesn't happen overnight. Just like building a new muscle, it requires consistent effort. You might try this routine 3 times a day for a week, and you'll likely notice that the intensity of your stress reactions starts to diminish. You might also find that you're able to catch yourself earlier, before the stress spirals into full-blown anxiety. Over time, the brain will start to anticipate the new response, and the old habit will become less dominant. Dr. Michael Merzenich, a leading neuroscientist, emphasizes, neuroplasticity is not a one-time event. It's a continuous process of learning and unlearning. As we wrap up, let's recap the 3 steps in a single sentence each. First, label the feeling to engage the thinking part of your brain. Second, reframe the thought to give the situation a new, less threatening meaning. Third, reset with breath and posture to calm the nervous system. If you commit to practicing this routine, you'll be giving your brain the repeated experience it needs to create lasting change. Remember, the brain is like a garden. What you water grows, and what you neglect dies. By watering these new pathways every day, you're cultivating a calmer, more resilient mind. Thank you for watching. If you found this explanation helpful, please like the video and share it with someone who could benefit from a little stress relief. I'd love to hear about your experiences, so drop a comment below and tell me which step worked best for you, or if you have any other techniques that have helped you rewire your stress response. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next video. where we'll dive deeper into habit stacking and how you can build a resilient mindset that lasts. Until then, take a deep breath, stand tall, and remember, you have the ability to shape your own brain. See you next time.